Like, 8 seconds to spare. Good, go, David.
When we're up there. Here we are.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Good.
Good evening. It is Tuesday, October 14th, not Monday, October 13th, when I showed up last evening. I'm not embarrassed to say, yes. Is everybody? It is Tuesday, October 14th at 6 p.m. for our select board meeting. And Lately, would you read the quote for the evening?
Sure. Where a jury sits, there burns the lamp of liberty, from Patrick Devlin.
Thank you. We'll start off as usual, the citizens forum. Anybody has a non-agenda item? You can come up to the podium. Seeing no one rushing there. We'll move on to the administrator's report.
A couple of different things. The absentee ballots for the voting that'll be done on November 4th are available during normal business hours at the town office. The town office custodian has resigned her position effective the end of the month. Got an ad coming out in the paper and can't remember if it's posted on the website yet or not, but soon will be. So anybody interested in that very part-time position, come get an application. We've advertised it basically that it's open until filled. So we're scheduled right now for the closing for the sewer district land on Thursday. That's been scheduled and rescheduled several times since the voters approved it, so stay tuned. There's been conversations back and forth between two lawyers and the title insurance company, but we think we've got it all hammered out now. So Thursday. We're continuing with some tree and brush clearing alongside roads. Fall grading of gravel roads is underway. And I don't know if you noted in the public facilities director's report, but we've had some extracurricular activities going on over here in the yard. We're trying to figure out either who's coming or going at odd hours or dropping equipment off without talking to us about storage and ends up in the way. We'll be exploring some options for gating the facility for budget time. And I think that's all I have on my list.
Excellent. Any questions for David?
David, has there been any, I'm sorry.
No problem.
Has there been any damage over there? With this comings and goings or?
No, we've had somebody brought in a wheeler load of sand that I mean, it's not trash material. Dumped it in a spot off to the side that's just kind of like, why?
Yeah.
We can't seem to identify who brought it or if they thought they were coming back for it, but it's there. It isn't something we will utilize for ourselves. We might convert it into winter sand for residents, salt added, but we've had some pavement drop. We actually had a hydraulic ram left there, which is probably trash. We've had tires show up there in the past. We had a contractor who was doing work down the road, left a bunch of equipment there one day without, courtesy of a phone call to say, hey, is this okay? It's just.
Well, unfortunately, when people start doing that, other people see it and think
Yep.
it's okay. We just can't have that.
Right.
I got a question. Has there ever been discussion about cameras, surveillance cameras there? So at least the town knows who's doing what.
We've had,
I know there's one up there. I thought that Farley had that.
yeah,
That's the disconnect.
you're right. We've had contractors in the past when they've left things there. put their own cameras up.
Yeah.
But we don't have.
That's too bad because we get forced to do things that we don't necessarily feel we need to do, but we also need to protect the taxpayers' interests. Yeah, definitely town building. So it's too bad.
Yep.
Gotta do what we gotta do.
Okay, moving on to meetings and announcements.
The only two meetings we have coming are both at the town office, the Comprehensive Plan Review Committee and the Select Board will be meeting in a workshop session next Tuesday, October 21st at 6 p.m. And the Select Board's next regular scheduled meeting is Monday, October 27th, 6 p.m.
On that meeting, I will not be available for attendance. The 27th.
Thank you. Any upcoming community event? Seeing none, we'll move on to the minutes from September 29th meeting.
I move that the board approve the September 29th, 2025 meeting minutes as presented.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? You. Next up, we have a person interested in the Lakes and Ponds Committee. Leslie DeVoe. Sure.
Many times.
You can't hide from us.
You
in the
can't.
back.
Against me. So I'm Leslie DeVoe and I've the deep secret, dirty secret that I have is that I've actually been a guest at the Lakes and Ponds for a year and a half or so.
I've noticed that in the minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's because there's a reason for that. I was chair of the environmental committee for the MWA. And I had this idea that we needed to have people from sort of a circle around everybody, like have someone from Lincolnville, someone from Camden, someone from Hope and the towns and so on, as sort of a beginning of a coalition. And so I went and I never left. And so, but I did time out on as chair of the other committee, which made it be okay with kind of becoming a full-fledged member of this committee. So
Excellent.
Yeah.
Any questions for Leslie?
I don't have a question. I just want to clarify in case anyone's listening and doesn't know what MWA stands for. It's McGonagall Watershed Association.
right, thank you.
Okay. There are no other questions for Leslie. I look for a motion.
I move to appoint Leslie DeVoe to the Lakes and Ponds Committee, a regular member with a term expiring in June 2026.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? None, all in favor? Excellent. Thank you, Leslie.
Thanks a lot.
Next, we have the Breezemere Park bandstands. We have a request for amplified music from the LCS PTO, the Harvest Festival. Sure, come on.
My name is Grace Winterfart. I am Vice President of the LCS PTO. And we are planning a harvest festival on Saturday, the 25th. From 12 to 3, and we have a parent who has a musician parent who has a couple of people who want to join her to just provide entertainment music during the harvest festival. It will be about 2 to 3 musicians. They will have acoustic guitars, and if approved, 1 electric guitar, and a hand drum or djembe, and maybe, if approved, 2 to 3 small amps. The music will be loud, just enough for the attendees to hear it, but not the main focus of the event. So it's not a concert, and just loud enough for a good atmosphere. So we're just hoping to get your approval for amplified music on the 25th, excuse me.
Excellent. Any questions? Folks?
Question, just a comment in general, and this isn't about this application, but I feel like reading through all of our current policies, I think the board needs to take a concerted effort to modernize our policies. That being said, it seems like a pretty tidy little package that you're asking for. I don't see any issue.
I
Hold on,
agree.
hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I just want to point out that the original letter says to help the sound carry, she'd like to use an amplifier is one. She just indicated it's gonna be 2 to 3. So this would be a good test, I guess, because David indicated that in the past we have had complaint. So, please be careful and mindful.
Yeah, just a couple of things, I guess. Yeah, no, I agree. It's worthwhile to try it. And see how it goes. It'd be nice if there's a way that we could use this as a way to kind of measure and see what effect it might have. You know, I don't know how you do that. Have one of us with a sound pressure level meter recording decibels, and which may or may not mean anything, of course. Second thing, I really look forward to someday dealing with this bandstand guidelines document that we have, because I think we've got to, because every year this keeps coming up, right? Yeah, it's really just, it's unfair to people who want to use it and want to have an amp or a couple amps, yeah.
And it does seem that, from noon to 3.
Yeah.
Seems like if you're gonna ask to
Sure,
have
yeah.
some quiet amplified
Yeah.
music, that's pretty reasonable as opposed to
It is.
7 to 10:30.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I have nothing to add other than what's already been said.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I ditto that we need to revisit the whole policy around this in general. I see no concerns. Last time we had an event there, that went off without a hitch. I would just say be mindful.
Okay.
And if somebody did happen to raise a concern, turn back. With that, I would look for a motion.
I move to permit the request of the Lincolnville Central School PTO to allow for amplified music at the Breezemere Park Bandstand on October 25th, 2025, between the hours of noon and 3 p.m.
Second.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you very much. Please have a great event.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Cool. Next up, comprehensive plan, public outreach mailer. Yeah, maybe Tilson here.
So we have the comprehensive plan land use workshop in November. And I'm hoping that we could send out a townwide mailer to get, I think attendance at this event is incredibly important. Because I think, especially for crafting a land use plan that is going to be accepted by the town, you really need people's input. People need to know about it, and land use is a very, very touchy subject. So so I think the first sort of request is for a townwide mailer, just advertising that that's happening so people know. And then since we're already sending out a mailer, I think it would be really helpful. I don't know if it's included in your packet, but I drafted a short survey that I think will be really helpful, even if attendance isn't what we would like it to be at this meeting. I think it will really help show people, when we put together this land use plan, how many people responded and provided input. And it'll give us some general guidelines to work with that I think will be that I think the committee has been struggling without having.
So I think you were asking that it's all in one mailer.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
I've got two questions. Please go ahead. Well, no, my questions were, one, which I maybe should be asking, or I should already know this, but I couldn't quite figure out the cost. That, what the cost might be of this mailing. And secondly, you know, I mean, at MCOG, you guys have done this before. This is not many times. Put out mailers with other towns, working with other towns. So this is kind of almost pro forma stuff that you guys do, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, what I thought.
Yeah.
And well, I guess follow-up was what kind of response, number wise, percentage wise, do you kind of look for? It'd be nice to see that kind of,
I would
Yeah.
say a minimum of 10%
okay,
response,
Yeah.
based on the number of people. So, you know, obviously there's a fair share of Lincolnville that are children, and so, but, you know, usually I aim for about 10%, which is a pretty good response rate, but something like, and that's for like usually our longer comprehensive plan surveys. So, you know, those are oftentimes 40 questions. So I'd hope that the response level even higher for this. In terms of the cost, I think David has sent out mailers via every door direct mail before.
In your packet, it says about $750
okay, thanks.
for the copying, and then unfortunately for us, the every door direct mail. If you want to saturate Lincolnville, also includes part of Northport.
Oh.
Because we have same zip
Yeah,
code,
right.
so you either hit it or you don't. But we have done that in the past.
So, I think it's a great idea to send out a mailer and get bums in seats. I also like the idea of a survey. With all due respect, I really don't like this survey. I feel like it is far too leading. I think the questions are really kind of directed. And I would much prefer to see much more open-ended questions, you know, that get people's juices flowing, that could provide for a really robust dialogue when people are in the room there. I'm concerned that, you know, you kind of, not that these aren't good questions, it feels to me, and I'm sure this is part of it, is that you're trying to do a lot in one thing just because of the timeline that you're working with. But I would much prefer to see, you know, an open-ended question like, you know, do you feel that there are areas of the land use ordinance that need to be addressed? Do you just, you know, I'm famous for, you know, what's the widget? Like, what are the issues that we need to talk about, rather than kind of planting the seed of what are issues potentially. So, you know, and then maybe having some of these for dialogue at the workshop, but not, I feel like this could potentially turn on or turn off certain people from response. And so creating a you know, even if it's just one open question, you know, what are the issues that you see when it comes to land regulation here in Lynn? And, you know, encourage, you know, topics of discussion could range from this to this to this to this to this. Please come with your thoughts to contribute. So that's my $1.50 thought.
It's up to $1.50 now, right?
Yeah. I could ramble.
My mind.
So I'm just a little confused. So lately, are you saying that number 4, I feel like number 4 is an open-ended question.
Yes.
I mean, it just says goals instead of issues.
Right, yeah.
But-
With the, wording, but I know from reading the comprehensive plan review committee's meeting minutes, there was a lot of robust discussion about words and wording and things like that. It's much more, the first three questions that I feel like are very directed. They're very specific, and rather than encouraging a broader, bigger perspective conversation on land use in Lincolnville and what the potential issues might be, I feel like these questions are sort of saying these are the issues. What do you think about them?
I look at it from two perspectives. Question one is fairly balanced. 2 and 3, with land use, you either have typically two approaches. Hey, we want to promote things, or we want to limit things. And every single question is worded limit, restrict, or whatever. And so it comes across as I'm personally concerned of the average person reading this is like, all they're trying to do is restrict everything we do. Great, and they're just gonna throw their arms up. That's my concern with it. And so question 1 seems fairly open. Question 4 is open-ended, but questions 2 and 3 are simply restrict, limit, etc. So that was my concern looking at the questions. That way, as far as getting a survey out and having this as part of what we're doing, I am 100% for it. I think we have to, and it will provide you some additional distinct data that you can point to as in the documents, and not just, hey, this person feels a certain way, which we can't draw out.
Right. Let me, actually, I'm just gonna pull it up on. Take a look at the same time. Yeah, let me just, maybe it might help to provide a little bit of background and sort of our approach with some of these questions. And these are questions I've used for the most part from other communities or with other communities, but I did tailor them to some of the issues that have come up for debate in the comprehensive plan review committee that, is stuff that has come out of the previous comprehensive plan. So it is targeted in that there was stuff that's sort of like, do you want this or do you not? But let me just pull that up so I can address that. The questions are very targeted because I think what we're working with from the heart and soul process is very general. And we have a lot of like open-ended feedback that I think has been really hard to work with in any sort of decision-making process. And I think where you run into the issues of, I actually think that the workshop is the place to have these more open-ended conversations. Whereas we really need numbers behind some of the decision-making processes. Like, does the community, yeah, let me pull this up so I know what
I didn't bring a sample of it, but I did some research on this. One of the examples I found elsewhere was, it was basically, the questions were based on a scale. And basically, if you were saying performance standards for commercial development, the scale was loosen standards to increase standards, and in the middle was maintain the same. And people could choose a point on the scale for these types of questions. That to me is more, allows people to, hey, I'm actually somebody that's thinking about how do we grow, how do we add business, so I'm looking over here, versus folks who are like, no, I don't want business growth, and they are going to put over here. To me, that gives us more valuable data that can be crunched than circling some of these, which doesn't really give us any tabular data that we can actually, in my opinion, make a decision from a data science perspective.
So, I will say, for a survey of this scale, I found that like not using rating scales has been way more helpful in that how people respond, because we're giving them various options, creates sort of a rating in and of itself, and so we can see like, you know, how many people want, especially because you can select all that apply for most of the questions. But I think the other thing is what, when you ask someone something like that, it assumes that they have some knowledge of the land use, of what the land use ordinance is, or land use at all. And so I think that's a little, it might be too complex where people don't necessarily have an opinion or a way to even rate that on a scale. And so that's sort of the, you know, we're catering to your average layperson who may not even know that the town has a land use ordinance.
So how do you? If somebody filled this out that is actually pro growth, let's say, how you wouldn't actually know it, they basically would hand you back a blank sheet of paper.
Right.
And you, so you've got, do you just not include them? That's the concern, because every question is about a limit or a restriction. And so somebody that wants to promote some of these things is,
Well,
they have no voice.
You
Maybe.
pick the first one for one.
That's one, that's not, you have, this is a tabular survey. This is something we should be able to do data science on and analytics. You can't do analytics on one-sided questions. It's impossible.
I guess I'm saying I disagree with you on how one-sided, like question one.
Question one is not, I didn't say it was.
Okay, but there is a no regulations
Right.
option there.
Right.
You were saying, how is a
But-
person who wants growth gonna answer? They're not gonna do anything. They're
But
gonna
there's
pick the
50 other questions.
No, there's 3 other questions.
How many lines are there here? Every one of those is an option for somebody to circle something.
Yes,
There's,
and number
4
2, you
questions
have the
with 50
option to
options.
say you don't support it. So,
yes, it's very,
I mean,
1 out of 50 is not, or 1 out of 30 is not a,
It's
Good
very,
sample.
it's very leading. It
Yeah.
just is that it presents a bottleneck in terms of collecting true opinion, you know, and as I said, and you said also, I think that this would turn a lot. And not cover, I could hear it already, it's like, oh, it's gonna be those people that are gonna come and have a conversation and they're just gonna decide. You know, I think it needs it, I think the points you made, Steve, are
So here is where so question number 2, that's something that has been identified over multiple comprehensive plans. And that people want to protect scenic and sensitive resources, and something that's already currently in the land use ordinance. And I think what we're trying to decide is, you know, what types of regulations do people want to see, or no regulations? So that's really the question, and where the comprehensive plan, I think, has fallen in terms of the future land use plan, has fallen apart in the past, is that there are things that are being proposed for regulations that people don't support. And so that's sort of where we need to get at, you know, if people, you know, if 40% of the people say that they want to apply stricter performance standards, I would take that as probably you don't want the town doesn't want any sort of stricter performance standards. So it's not just, you know, I'm not looking at, some of it comes down to the analysis. But I think that these are all, you know, the comprehensive plan has to come up with some pretty particular recommendations in order for this land use plan to be you know, something that can be implemented. And I think that's what kind of happened is, you know, the previous comprehensive plan, the land use plan ended up not being in line with what the community wanted, and so it never got implemented, is my understanding of it. And so we need to know on sort of a basic level, are any of these restrictions things that people want? If they don't want them, that's totally fine. I would say that the pro-growth option there is, I don't support land use regulations as a way to protect scenic and sensitive resources.
So I guess my question is why couldn't we have a flyer with question 1 and a variation on question 4. Because honestly, without you being here and explaining the backstory of the why for question 2 and question 3, it loses its power. And so having a 2-part question, which is 1, and then a variation of question 4, and then presenting 2 and 3 at the workshop with that explanation behind it so that people can understand why you're asking that. Because just having this in here, if, you know, I mean, I worked on the scenic view or scenic resources assessment. Whenever that happened, a long time ago, yeah. And you know, it just sort of seems like that's very specific, you know, and so I think having you there at the workshop saying, so here are a couple of things that are pretty key to pulling this thing off. And having that robust discussion at the workshop rather than, I mean, I appreciate trying to front load some of that, but I do not believe that it's going to have the effect that you're hoping for.
So, you know, what I will say is that I think, and the concern, ideally, yes, that is exactly how it would go, but you're not gonna get the same amount of turnout at that workshop as you will via survey, and that's the problem. Workshops also tend to draw a certain type of person, and so you're very much catering towards a subsection of the population, which is what I understand has sort of been the issue with the heart and soul process. You know, in asking some of these questions, I'm also hoping to get people to start to think about some of these topics. So they are in some ways leading, but they're all things that have been previously discussed as things that the town supports. And so the question is, does the town actually support them? Or have we just been, or has our sample size been too small? So question 3, for example, these are directly out of the previous comprehensive plan. And so, you know, out of the land use section, and that's exactly what the town has said, you know, they don't get behind. So is it, they don't get behind all of these statements or just some of them? Like, what do they support versus what don't they support? And that will be really easy to tell from these responses. Like it, you know, anything that's sort of 50-50 is a wash. I look for, with comprehensive plan surveys, it's not an exact science. You're looking for extremes, like people really want this thing, or it's kind of undecided. It's probably something that we should either have further discussion on. That's how I use that survey. So I definitely understand your concerns. I just don't think that there's a better way to get the type of input that we need in order to make the land use plan effective. And I think if people get heated about it, that's good. I mean,
if they respond, so that's the, yeah.
So
I will say that we've done this many times before, and that this has worked out really well. And it's given us questions that we can really, or like answers that we can really start to work with. It's a beginning point, it's not an end point.
So, for example, if we were going to use question 3, what you just stated needs to be in the statement of question 3 is that all of these items are directly from the current comprehensive plan. Which of these do you support?
Okay, so maybe background explanation on the questions is
That changes the context of that question to the average person that's going to read it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna suggest. This whole conversation seems to be going around the tension between explaining the background, explaining the need for this questions, getting this kind of data, and that the tension between an explanation and then the data itself. The questions to get the data. More explanation, the softening of the tone leading with, this is why we're asking the question, type of thing. And I don't know where you want to insert that, and I don't want to get into myself, I don't want to get into drafting by committee. Okay, I don't want to get into that or second guessing a committee or MCOG's prior work. It's like, but I think. I think you'd get around. Avoid a lot of the issues, a lot of the questions raised. If there's more explanation, more background given, it may turn into this conversational
Yeah,
thing you put out there, which you know. I don't know surveys. Maybe you don't want, maybe that's what a survey doesn't want to present. I have no idea. But something like that might help.
right. Yeah, I definitely can understand the need to add a little more background in the question, so maybe that's something I can do and see if that sits a little better. I definitely wouldn't consider this like pro-growth versus not, because I expect that answers for a lot of these things would be no. But that's really helpful to have. And so that's what we need.
Mhm.
You know, if there's a strong lack of response for a certain answer, we know that's not something the town doesn't want. And that really helps in leading decision making. Especially when the committee is proposing things that like they think the town might want. And if you have a clear answer, like, no, the town doesn't want that, we can really make something that's a lot more effective. But I would hope that these questions also prompt people to come out to the meeting, either because of fear of overregulation or because they're want to think about it more. But you know, this is the second of 2 land use meetings that we've proposed. So this is sort of the beginning. And so this will give us a starting point, and at the next land use meeting that will be targeted more towards future land use, we'll be able to refine that conversation even further.
Other questions,
No.
recommendations on next steps?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't get behind voting for sending this out as it is. But if you included
The description.
the backstory for questions 2 and 3, I could get behind that.
My approach when I was reading this, I read it once and I go, okay, I'm on the committee, I'm involved. Okay, I gotta read it again and act like I'm just Joe Schmo on the street or whatever. And I read it in that view, I'm like,
Yeah.
I can't get behind it.
Yeah,
So I think I'm the same as far as if we can put a little more context to especially questions 2 and 3. 1 is fine, 4 is fine. This can, and then I know it'll be out there in the community as far as inviting people, but I would love to see in that last sentence before the first question, we'd love to see you join us. We review the responses or something like that. Just to even further call out any place we can put out there.
Yeah.
Come be here, please.
Yeah.
Would be what I'd be looking for.
Yeah, and to hopefully, I don't know if we should do it or ask David to specifically invite /suggest that the chairs of all of our boards, committees, commissions
Absolutely.
be encouraged to attend.
absolutely.
Okay, yeah, so I'm ready to vote on this partly because I think you need to get it out now, sooner than later. And I'm trusting you to do the draft in accordance with the general consensus that we've reached, that it needs to be conversational, there needs to be backstory, chairs need to be invited, et cetera, et cetera. I trust that you can get that out and make it an inviting thing. But still get the information that you all need.
Yeah, absolutely. I can revise it with more background tomorrow and send it to you guys. I know you're not allowed to discuss anything via email, but
Yeah, what do you wanna do, Steve?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. What's your goal as far as date to get this out?
I want to give people about a month. Um,
And we're already at that today.
right.
Um,
Could we entrust our town
That's what I'm
administrator for the
about-
final?
that's what I was about ready to say. He loves that.
I think that's
It's
a good idea, that satisfies everybody.
And, yeah, and it doesn't get into
Yeah.
issues with.
No, we can't do dealing with that. Yeah, I would, I guess look for a motion that is around the changes we've asked, 80 to implement in the inviting people to attend and context the questions 2 and 3. And we'll entrust our town administrator in reviewing that and getting it out.
It sounds like. we should just-
Second.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
That's pretty cool.
That works. Any other discussion on that? All in favor? Thank you
Thanks,
very
Amy.
much.
Thanks, Eddie.
Thanks for all your efforts on this, Sadie. I know we're putting you through the ringer a little bit on that, but the more we dig into this stuff and the better it turns out.
It definitely, yeah, it matters. We want it to be.
Yeah.
Successful.
I think, you know, the ultimate goal is just to get people to provide input so that whatever we put forth is valid in the eyes of the town, so.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. Okay. Move on here. We're on to item number 9, EMS update and first responder discussion.
But the 2 people I thought would be here at
So we got one out in the
Oh,
hallway.
oh.
He's lurking. Lurking.
Be a little fake. Oh, we'll step right up, Mr. Farley.
me, a little babe.
I don't think Rick was gonna make it tonight.
Welcome.
Thanks. Thank you for the invite. Dave's fond of saying that if you don't hear anything, you're gonna presume everything's going right. So I'm not here to tell you things are going wrong, but just to have an opportunity to answer any questions you might have. You might recall that we entered into our agreement with Northeast so that starting on July 1st, there is now an ambulance stationed at the Camden Public Safety Building, co-staffed by a Northeast paramedic and a Camden firefighter EMS licensed personnel. So for the first couple of months, first 3 months, it was just there from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. We were needing to make some arrangements to get overnight accommodations set up because we don't have any in the public safety building. So we are actually leasing space right next door in the River House Hotel. So we started on October 1st, with the ambulance being in the public safety building 24 hours a day. So Northeast person's there 24 hours a day and Camden fire personnel there 24 hours a day. We're still doing our first responding. And Rick did send me just some numbers just so that you're aware of those for the first quarter. So the total number of EMS incident responses for the first quarter were 389. Of that, 296 were in Camden, 53 in Lincolnville, and 40 in Hope. One of the other metrics that was that we wanted to be looking at was response times, and Rick didn't give me any of that information, but they're supposed to provide a quarterly report by, I think it's the 1st of November for July, August, and September. So I'm sure that will be coming out. But I was having a conversation with the Camden Parks and Rec Director last week, and he said over the course of the summer he is seeing a better response time with the ambulance being in Camden, and is very pleased with what they're getting for those response times, so. And also just as part of, the study that the 4 towns in the hospital did way back when was to start a fire-based EMS first responder agency. So we've been doing that for a couple of years now. We're still in the process of, including Hope in that. Our license now covers Hope geographically. Hope Fire is still working through some issues. The change in fire chief slowed things down a little bit. And I just wanted to throw out there again that happy to have conversations about including Lincolnville in that coverage area as well. Beyond that, happy to answer any questions you might have.
What does that mean, including Lincolnville, that coverage area? Because you responded to it now, so could you just kind of break that down for me a little bit?
Sure. So Northeast has the transporting license for the 3 towns. And so including Lincolnville in that first response part would just give us flexibility in terms of if an ambulance isn't available, we could either send Camden or Hope first responders over. As well, it provides those folks with a little bit of coverage if something were to happen and they were in town. For example, one of our firefighters lived in Lincolnville and moved down to Camden. His daughter still goes to Lincolnville school. So if he's there at a school event, technically he can't provide service, but if Lincolnville were in the first response area, they could. And similarly, one of our firefighter paramedics lives off from 235, and the same thing with her. She could easily respond if it was included in the response area. So it really
Is that an update or expansion of your licensing
it's
to allow that to happen, or what is involved with that?
it's simply including it in our license application.
Understood.
So when we do renewal, that's something you all would have to, decide that you wanted to do, right? You'd have to give us the okay to do that.
Yeah.
It will require a 30-day public notice period, so that you're notifying your residents that this is something that you're looking at, and gives them the opportunity to weigh in on it. And then it gets reviewed by Maine EMS, the Maine EMS board.
Yep. Perfect. Thank you.
I just had a question about mutual aid. Have you guys been providing that? And do you have numbers? Or-
I don't, and I would have expected that will come out from Northeast,
Okay,
the beginning of November, I think.
yeah, but just anecdotally, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
So in this idea of first response, is there been any communication like between yourself and our fire chief or anything just from a public safety overarching standpoint?
I don't think that, I don't want to speak for them, but I don't think they're have a whole huge interest in getting into EMS.
Yeah,
right?
that's fine.
So,
That's fine. No, I'm not.
I mean, Donnie and I have
No
chatted.
concerns, yeah.
Donnie and I have chatted, but and we're not forcing on anybody. We don't want to. We're not saying, hey, you have to do this. We're just saying, it's just something that was in the recommendations from the report way back in. We just wanted to touch base on that.
And if there was to be kind of extending on what Kern was asking, if there were first response activities, I'm assuming from what you were saying, it might be somebody in their personal vehicle, it might be your whatever truck rolling into town. I'm not sure if there's any concerns from folks regarding a Camden fire vehicle pulling into the driveway. Or whatever.
No concern in my view. Just wondering, I'm glad somebody asked, glad you asked if our chief had been brought in on the, I know he's voiced a little concern with EMS, but let's face it, it's the future. And people want it and need it, so, that's good information to.
Yeah, because if we were to, when would you need to know you want it to be included? And knowing that the chief isn't interested. Because he said that to us quite a few times,
Yeah,
but what if,
he said it to me as well, yeah. I'm not-
but what if some of our volunteer firefighters were interested in, you know, independently getting trained up with that? And should, you know, not necessarily dragging the whole department in, but individually, is that a possibility?
Yeah, similar situation, it's happening at Hope Fire. There are 4 or 5 people with an EMS license who are interested in providing the service, the rest of them aren't. And Northeast has been very supportive of that. They had purchased some equipment that didn't quite match up with some of the equipment that was on Northeast ambulance, and Northeast said, hey, let's swap it out with this. And when recent EMS stabilization funding was available, Northeast included in their grant request was to get 4 or 5 AEDs to give to the Hope first responders. And so those are actually sitting at the Hope Fire Department right now, just waiting for them to get ready.
Cool. But yeah,
And so training, Northeast is committed to doing training. We do training with our folks twice a month, and as well as regular training with the Northeast folks that are working with us too. Yep.
Last item I had was, is there any? Doesn't sound like there's any cost per se to having us within your license.
I believe that there was $100 fee that when we added Hope to it. And what we do, we have an MOU with the town of Camden and the town of Hope, and there's actually, we just increased that from $100 to $250. And that's basically, we looked at the number of that's again a minimal number, right? But we looked at the number of EMS responses in Hope and figured out how much all of our EMS responses go through a quality assurance process. And so that $150 basically covered the cost of the person doing the QA for each of the incidents.
Well, I do have a question.
Yes.
So if we did decide to have Lincolnville added to the geographic area, and if there were individuals in town that were interested in training for EMS, that is something individuals could pursue?
Yes, we would probably, in that situation, we would probably either bring them up over Camden Fire or Hope Fire, so that they're affiliated with one of the fire departments, so that they're getting the training, any responses that they have goes through the QA process and documentation for each response that we do. This main EMS board requires every incident to be documented on their incident reporting system. And I don't think I answered your question, Lydia. We are actually, so all EMS agencies renew their license October, November. So
Okay.
we'll be doing our license application in the next couple of weeks.
okay.
If we found somebody in Lincolnville that was interested in running, spearheading with the fire department in Lincolnville, an effort like this, how involved is the process of like what Hope has gone through to start that process?
Honestly, it's not that complicated because we've done most of the groundwork is done, right? It's more setting somebody up to do that. So it's not that complicated.
I've got a question there. If indeed some Lincolnville folks on fire were to work with you all, like it's just been described, would the town run into any difficulties in the way like the recent reimbursement thing we just went through with firefighters? Do we have to, would there be conflict there, I guess? Would it get sticky?
Well, that,
Or is there a firewall between fire EMS where there wouldn't be that confusion?
I mean, I think it's a great concept. I don't know that we should derail the conversation.
No, I'm not
So,
trying to.
I'm just wondering, no, but I'm just like, I get worried about having this conversation without having a conversation with the chiefs, and I'm just wondering, we've got a meeting on the 27th. If we could, do a little bit of homework and have some of these questions vetted prior, and then talk with our chiefs, just so we're all on the same page.
Exactly.
That feels better to me than not being like, yeah. let's
Oh,
do
yeah.
it.
Oh. Yeah, it's not, getting information.
Yeah, that's what we would encourage.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean. Oftentimes we want to jump into something to get it accomplished, right? But over the last couple of years, I've seen that a slow, steady progress has, a slow, steady process has led to good progress. And I'm glad we didn't just dive right in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Definitely. Any other questions? Well, thank you for.
Thank you.
For coming.
Okay,
Very
thank
much.
you very much.
I appreciate you taking your time.
Have a good night.
Yeah, you do.
Next on our agenda is to talk about boat ramp improvement. David, would you like to
Sure.
share your thoughts?
As I think we all know, the voters approved the acquisition of the sewer district parcel adjacent to the boat launching ramp, which we've been talking with them for 5, 6 years, 7, maybe, who knows. And hopefully that will be actually acquired by the town on Thursday. All comes together. And at this point, it's nice to have some direction for staff as to what you want to do, because the land connection point for all the options we've seen to date for improving the boat launching ramp involved the parcel next door that we didn't own or have any control over. But hopefully we will here in short order. Looking to see if we want to take the next step, which would be to finalize, for lack of a better word, a conceptual plan that we could take to the regulators to get environmental permitting and a more detailed cost estimate than what we have now, which dates back to 2017, so it's probably useless or near it. We also during the due diligence process in the acquisition or the run-up to the acquisition of the parcel, met with several regulators there with the assistance from Gartley and Dorsey, who in essence, without telling us you could actually get a permit, they told us you could probably get a permit if you did this, and this before the regulatory things change or world changes around us. I think it probably is a good time to take the next step and move forward. And since we have the ongoing relationship and they actually led the site walk down there, thinking we'd continue with folks from Gartley and Dorsey. And the town, in its wisdom, a number of years ago, set aside some money for this very purpose. So that's where we are. But if you want to just shelve it, just let me know. I've got enough on the plate and the survey apparently to help with.
Yeah, I mean, I remain a big fan of C7 from Pinnacle Engineering. The only deficit that I could see is that we've floated around the concept of having floats run down along the southwestern, western side of the ramp. And so including, I wanted to see what the board's thoughts were. I know it's come up in the Herbert Committee, of having the ramp wide enough to accommodate 5-foot wide float to dry out on the ramp, so that when people are launching their boats at whatever tide, you can tie your boat up to the ramp, and so that might also include driving some pilings on that inside. There, it just seems like a feature that we've been lacking for a real long time, and that we should at least explore the cost of adding that. So widening the boat ramp ever so slightly to include 5-foot wide floats and pilings. And then my only other comment, which isn't really for the here and now, but trying to set policy and management of the parking spaces, as a number of people have brought up. You know, how can we protect that parking for our harbor users? So, yeah, those are my thoughts.
If you look at the, oops, sorry, didn't
No, go ahead.
on top of it. If you look at the little color copy, that was kind of what Garland Dorsey was using for just the talking point with the regulators. That does show, I don't know if it calls on a specific width, but if you look closely, you can see an outline of some floats alongside.
But
And,
it's not
right,
within the footprint of the ramp necessarily. That's, so I feel like they need to be integrally designed.
yeah, I think we need to kind of work with them to meld the option or the plan they was working with some of the Pinnacle Hill stuff, and create something that would come back to this board and perhaps the Harbor Committee to be like, is this what you're thinking? So that we can have a cohesive proposal to the regulators for approval. And because I don't think any of the options we've seen to date is necessarily the direction I hear everybody going or thinking about. But there's key elements of each one that, if kind of melded together, could create the vision, so to speak. So I would think we'd ask, Gartland Dorsey to take some of these aspects, massage it to one plan, go to the Harbor Committee, get there. Yep, we like that. Or no, if you could just move, tweak, widen, narrow, whatever. And then with their input, Gartland Dorsey's input, Harbor Committee's input, then come back to the board and say, here's the concept that we all think is necessary and appropriate. Do you agree? So that we can then put together the applications and get it approved or considered for approval.
Sounds good to me.
Makes sense, sure.
Yeah, I totally agree. We've got to get this moved forward to a point where we've got some permits locked in while this there in Augusta, that met with us recently. So as you laid for David, getting Gartland Dorsey to pull this together and then get us something that we can work with the Harbor Committee is definitely the right approach. And then what you said lately, I've had at least 4 people bring up the parking thing. And we also heard it at the public meeting on this topic. When you look at the boat ramp on 52 and trailer spots and then cars parking all the time.
Well, and I worry about contractors with a trailer parking in our trailer spots, being like, well, it's trailer parking, like active boater park trailer parking.
Yeah.
And-
exactly.
and then how. to manage it, but-
Odor permit.
That also dovetails a little bit into our next, or your next agenda item about DOT is interested about what we're looking to do because they're looking to make their connection points from the parking lot.
Mhm.
I have at their request, of course, we have it on our website, we have the Pinnacle Hill concept. They have shared that with the project manager because he asked if we had it, you know. Anything, and I said, well, beyond this, beyond the napkin sketch, here's the, here's the concepts we've been looking at for 5 or 6 years.
Mhm.
Okay.
Well, this right here would be a great opportunity working with DOT and Gartley Dorsey Pinnacle. Or the basic concept, C7, to actually get a handle on parking enforcement down there. Because I think it comes down to enforcement,
Mhm.
unfortunately. It's sad, but I don't think just pure signage and recommending
Mhm.
that is gonna work out.
Mhm.
I think there'll be more issues raised. We just go just that route.
It won't, you're right.
Yeah, totally right. I mean, the parking situation was eased with that new
Mhm.
terminal lot down there this summer, but still the 4-hour parking and stuff was jammed up pretty darn hard at times with all contractor trucks.
And so,
That went out to the island.
Yeah.
And most of them weren't local trucks either.
Mhm.
That way. I'm down there every single day. David, do you need anything else from us on this?
Not if you're okay with it, think I have enough direction.
Okay.
Unless you want to get some more, otherwise we'll get going.
Excellent. No, this is great. Forward we go. Well, we will move forward then to agenda item number 11, which is to talk about the opportunity to meet with RL from Maine DOT regarding the ferry terminal parking project. In my opinion, we absolutely must take them up on the offer. I would prefer if RL would come on site, but if we're gonna meet remotely, that's fine too. I know David is suggesting we do that on Monday, November 17th at 6 o'clock.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I say jump at it with both hands and make it happen. The only thing I would say is considering what we just discussed and how obtuse some of their designs are. If we could somehow get him here for a site walk would be incredible. So I don't know if we can, I mean, I'll take what I can get, but if we could somehow ask David, say, boy, might be really handy to, it could shorten the whole affair
It's true.
if we could do a site walk.
The daytime site walk, what
Yeah.
people's availability would be
Yeah.
to meet, and it would have to be, can't be 6 o'clock at night. Not anymore. It would be a daytime site walk, but that would be. If we could pull that off, I would be all for it.
But if not, any meeting, great.
Yeah, sidewalk would be wonderful. I was just gonna simply point out that on the 17th, I know I'm gonna be out of town, so I would be zooming in along with the DOT guy. And that's just the way it would be.
It doesn't have to be the 17th. I was just looking at the schedule and Orell is not available the first week in November, neither am I, because elections. The next week is your regular meeting. The next real open Monday, I just picked the next one. It was
But,
up
yeah,
for discussion, but
yeah, I
doesn't
don't wanna
have to
hold it
be,
up because I'll be out of town.
doesn't have to be that day. Doesn't have to be a Monday, doesn't have to be that day.
Right. And hearing that right now, I would love to find a different day for our priorities workshops if Mike's not able to.
Yep.
So that's what we suggested,
What's the date on that?
17th of November. Is what David and I. we could certainly look for it.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a better date. Or else he wasn't married to a Monday,
And
and if we're gonna try a daylight,
should we try to find a date? And I'm sure people have their calendars handy that we could get our priority session in place and try to schedule Orel at the same time. If they can't attend a site walk, so we've got a backup if they can't attend a site walk.
I'm a little confused because I thought that it seemed like the point was it would be better to have the meeting during the day so that there was a sidewalk. Or are you saying?
They
two
may
different
not want to
things?
come down.
Yeah,
They've already said they'd rather do remote. If they don't want to come on site, we're not going to be able to get
Yeah.
that. We have to have a backup date.
Okay.
Plus, we're trying to also schedule the priorities workshop. We were looking to
Right.
schedule a priorities workshop for the same meeting. If we have to go that route.
I'm looking at my calendar and I just know that like. That next week, or that, I mean. Like the 30th, 31st, Thursday and Friday. Or all next week after that, 24th through the 28th of November. I could definitely do it, so. This just happened, the 17th, I just can't, you know, I won't be here.
probably not gonna get big
We'll take
attendance
that.
on the 27th.
No.
No.
That's Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
Yeah, there we go.
Mike's available, but
Definitely.
you might be there alone.
Thanksgiving working, what can I say?
We'll take that offline then and figure out.
Let me see if we can get him to come down for a site walk.
Yep.
Because that'll dictate the time of day, and then we'll try to get a few, and then I'll poll you each individually to say, these date work this time, and
Okay,
Mhm.
thanks. Well, thank you.
Okay. I think we're set with that one. We'll move forward to agenda number 12, our select person updates. Lily,
Have nothing.
her,
At this time, I don't have anything to say.
Well, I don't have anything to say, except I'm really looking forward to time when you do have something to say. The anticipation is.
Yeah, we're really building up to something.
I'm down here where it's so quiet. Okay.
I'm good, I don't.
Good. Robin,
I've got Waldo County budget the 24th and the 25th. And I spent all day today trying to pull together. I've noticed that they're drowning in paper and spreadsheets, and I don't think their spreadsheets talk to each other. And I was looking at what we had in last year's packet and what we voted on versus what they've been giving us for this year's year to date and the budget that's in this year's. And quite honestly, I'm having some troubles reconciling what they've got is what they're saying the budget is compared with what we left it at when we voted the budget last year. So I guess, long story short, I think my comments from last time still hold true, that we're still looking at big increases, and I'm trying to make sure that they've been reorganizing a lot of departments, and my worry is that there's some things that have ended up in both places, you know,
Yeah.
because there's some big increases that don't make sense.
okay. Yeah, I just read an article, Knox County's talking about 20% increase.
Well, I do have to say, that is one thing we have talked about in budget committee meetings with the sheriff's department and corrections, that we're reaching a tipping point in our state. And I don't know whether Maine Municipal, whether the MMA could help, but the state controls district attorney and defense attorneys, public defender budgets. And the courts, the judges, the state controls this. We're still operating with district attorney staffing levels from the 70s. And we are at a point where so much of what we are stuck with in our prison population that we have are people that haven't even, they're pre-trial. I mean, like 10% of the actual population are people who have been convicted of something. And because people are pre-trial, they're not eligible for a lot of stuff. And we're getting killed with room and board for these people who are pre-trial, but we don't have judges, we don't have defenders, we don't have DAs to fully staff. The whole system is an integrated system, and the jails and corrections are breaking budgets because the state is not funding the other parts of the system that are out of the county's ability. And it's a real problem. And I've been told that it's a non-starter that we've had. Representative, that our state, it's come up in the legislature before and gone nowhere as far as increasing judges, increasing DAs. So just you and Chip can, I don't know, MMA, we have to throw a whole bunch of stuff and see what sticks to try to move this with there's constipation happening in the system.
Moving on, I had a couple items, comp plan committee last week. They had what I've heard is, I couldn't attend, but it was their most productive meeting they'd had in a few months. And many of the members are looking forward to the workshop with us coming up. So that is good. On the school facilities committee front, the heating system project over there, every update has either been on schedule or ahead of schedule. And so that should be wrapping up in the next several weeks. And just a note, we are trying to get a priorities workshop scheduled. If folks have things they would like to include in that, if you could bring them to my attention. Some have already brought some technical items into that, and there's going to be a sizable technical portion of that discussion whenever we get that scheduled. That's it.
While I'm not a select board member and
Go right ahead.
going to give you an update anyways, or chime in on stage. In preparation for your workshop next week with the comprehensive plan review committee, was going to provide the agreement we have with MCOG, which has the timeline and deliverables and whatnot in it. If there's anything anybody else needs in advance of that meeting to assist them in their preparations or being prepared when we show up, let me know. You don't have to do it right now, but if something pops in your mind in the middle of the night.
I know the one question I'm gonna be asking them, and maybe I should be asking you ahead of time, is to provide me with how it's expected to work with the state to get approval. What hoops do they have to go through in the timeline?
Yep.
In those, yeah,
I believe that's in our agreement, but if not, they can answer that.
okay, thanks.
State review. Yep.
Cool. Moving on, we have item 13, the treasurer and payroll warrants.
I move we approve the treasurer and payroll warrants.
And sign them.
And sign them. Approve and sign.
Excellent. All in favor? Thank you very much. Do you have any other items? Seeing nothing. Look for a motion.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? We are done.